So Ben, is there such a thing as libertarian? Shall we even try to come up with a definitions? Because we've already seen there are parts of the movement that move to completely different directions from each other. So is there even such a thing as libertarianism?
Well, there is, but you have to distinguish between the movement and the ideology. There's definitely a movement of people who call themselves libertarians, and there's certain sociological bonds that unite them. And I'll talk a little more about that. But what's important for our purposes especially is that there isn't really a coherent ideology that unites them. And if you take a look at this book by Zwolinski and Tomasi, if you read it carefully, that should become even clearer to you. I think that the authors themselves halfway confess that there's no coherent ideology that links this movement together. That's because when they get around to talking about what is the definition of libertarianism, they say, well, it doesn't have a definition in terms of necessary and sufficient conditions. It really only works as a kind of family resemblance cluster concept. And if any of you know Wittgenstein, this is the idea that you dispense with the idea of defining in terms of essential characteristics, and instead you try to see how different strands of a phenomenon have vague similarities in common that shift their standards from unit to unit. And so I say they half confess this. They don't outright say that there's no coherent ideology, but when you look at their reasons for thinking that there is, you see that their reasons start to fall apart. And in part, I think they're doing this on purpose. That is, it's often offered as a good thing by libertarians that, look, we're a big tent, we embrace all these different ideological orientations, we can agree on what we're going for, what the kind of change that we're working for, in spite of our ideological differences. Let's all get together and sing Kumbaya. And at times that comes out in this book. The title that we gave to this episode was Libertarianism, Big Tent or Big Mess. And you can guess by now that what we're going for is that it's actually a big mess. And that's in many ways by the author's own admission, though they're, again, not putting it in those terms. The subtitle of the book is important. It's Radicals, Reactionaries, and the Struggle for the Soul of Libertarianism. And that struggle for the soul of libertarianism is their way of summing up some of the major ideological differences that you see between these left libertarians, between these right-wing libertarians, culturally conservative libertarians. I mean, these are not just idle differences. These are differences that lead them to have tremendous infighting and go through all kinds of splits. And there's a reason for it, because there's ultimately no real single coherent ideology that binds together the people who call themselves libertarian.